Hi, my friends. Welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and this is Heather, and I am super excited that you're here. You are going to hear some tips and some tricks and some ideas to help you live your happiest and healthiest self. I call it Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, back to me, then you can take better care of others, and we can all make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way, and I am super happy that you're here. Hello, my friend. Welcome. As you hear, this is the Back to Me podcast. And here we are. When this is going to air, it's going to be the month of love. We're into February. And you know how much I love sleep. So I'm pretty excited to talk to Natasha, Dream Seer, Natasha Bolvin, our fabulous human being. We're going to talk about sleep and dreams and some of my favorite topics. Natasha, welcome. It's so nice to see you again. And we've met in real life, friends. We've actually, not everyone I talk to I've met in real life, but you and I have met IRL.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So I know we're going to talk about a lot of super exciting things. And I know some people don't find sleep exciting, but I know that you didn't start in the world of sleep and dream work because of a comment you just dropped to me recently. So what drew you down this path to leave what you were doing previously and into this world of dreams?
Well, I've actually just unentangled myself from my full-time career in marketing.
Right.
And and it is, to me, this is something that you get summoned to and called up to. Nobody wakes up and says, "Hey, I'm going to be a Dreamwork guide." I know that I couldn't have planned that. It is something that I was summoned to. And so just a little bit about me and my background with it.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually 2003. And that was when I was going through my awakening, my Saturn return, all of the things. And I was kind of going through this crisis at the time, which is how it often emerges. And I was having these intense dreams. And that's when I started my own personal dream interpretation for myself. But I had actually grown up in a family where we actually dream shared regularly without calling it dream sharing. It was just de facto. And that, I think, is just something that's cultural for us. And so, we'd slumber out on the weekends, and it was like I would be sharing with my mom or dad, or they'd be sharing. And so it was a very normalized conversation for me growing up. And now I just think about how, fortunate I had, I had that with my family, because I was allowed to share the crazy stuff. And that was so normalized to me that I didn't think that it was anything sort of an ability or a speciality. And so, now fast forward throughout my life, I have tuned into my dreams for my guidance, for my connection to God, for my, the symbolism, all of these things. And then it took me through a place where I was studying, depth psychology and archetypes. And I was like really into Caroline Myss, sacred contract.
Oh, yeah. She's got so much out there.
Dove into that back then. And it was actually even in 2004 where it was through a dream that I actually, an ex, entanglement, found out that he was married and was having an affair with me. And it actually came through a dream. So dreams for me have been not only just, this connection, but it's been something that's been super healing. And even a childhood trauma, it revealed itself at a later stage in my life through a dream, as if my psyche had coughed it up, knowing that this was the time for me to be able to deal with it. And so dreams have a very profound impact on me. And when I stepped into this a few years ago, it was because, well, it happened through a dream. I know.
It's legit. Like, come on, let's be serious.
And it was just around me too. Like, a very successful spiritual mentor of mine, Audra, said to me, like, how often do you dream? Because I constantly was sharing with the people around me. I dreamed of this and I dreamed of that. I was like, oh, well, I lucid dream pretty often, but I probably, dream recall about 5 times a week. And she just went, huh. And it was that moment that I went, oh my gosh. And a lot of things started to make sense. And then I just woke up one morning and I was like, someone posed a question of what is the thing that you can talk about endlessly and you never get tired of it? I was like, dreams. And that was the end of it. Throughout, and even colleagues at work, I became the de facto person at work that people would come in the morning. Hey, Natasha, I had this messed up dream last night, and they would unpack it with me. And so I have been this person all along, acting this out and being this person. And suddenly I clued into my own thing. And it was like, and now I just can't ever walk away from it because it came alive.
Right. It's so funny that you say it that way, because you just made me realize in every job I've ever had, I was always the person that people came to when they were like, I need someone to talk to, which is like, I'm like, I've been coaching all of this time and I had no idea. And it was somebody who just said to me one day, you should probably just do this. And I went, what? It's like,
But it's
you
funny,
mean not everybody does
tell
this?
you who you are and you don't even know, like it's this moment where you suddenly tap into it. And so that was it. It happened.
I love how you say you were summoned. And I believe that, like, you feel like you were blessed to have this family that did this, but you chose that family
Mm-hmm.
because you knew why you were part of you knew why you were coming. You're like, well, I need to be in that family so I can have this experience so that I can eventually step
Absolutely.
into it, right?
Well, and like my 5D, 60, 70 self knows that, but even in my, human reality here and now, in reflection, my entire history. So I was an art dealer in the early mid 2000s, and I gravitated towards, my favorite artist is Salvador Dali, and he kind of does all the weird stuff, but he is one of the guys behind surrealism, which is dream art created from your dreams. Like, oh my God. And now I'm like, this makes so much sense. The abstract, and it's just going on and everything makes sense. And now with my human design, even because you asked me about human design earlier, I have undefined parts in my head. And it was like the person said, this is your thing. And then, so now everything is confirming. And I'm just like, holy geez. And so I'm just feeling blessed in general that I've landed into all of it, or awakened to it, or remembered it,
Right.
however we want to look at it, whatever dimension I'm in that's looking at it from that perspective. And so what I now am absolutely anchoring into in the world is I am like, because it was so normalized in my family, I really didn't see it as a thing. I thought everybody kind of talked about it, and realizing how people are so disconnected from it was really suddenly the contrast that I was seeing. It was like, how do you not see this? How are we not? And then furthering on that, the amount of people that, don't bother with it. And yet this has been a profound impact on me.
Right.
And then diving deeper into that, and, in the society that we live in the big city, the distortions that we are navigating with all of these devices and electromagnetic fields and all of these things. And then it's the years of, we have been dysregulated to the point that we push away our dreams as if they're so insignificant. And yet, like, it's so profound to have, it's like we want to open up our third eye. We want to open up our psychic gifts. Dreams, y'all, visions, imagination. Hello.
Hello.
Uh,
This is where your subconscious gets to talk to you without a filter, right?
Amazing,
Yeah.
right? So my mission now is to awaken people to the dreams state. And when we want to access these different, higher levels of for the mystic in everybody that who wants to access different realms or project or really kind of, transcend certain things or understand subtle energies, the dreaming state is wide with and full with possibility because it is the realm of infinite possibility. And so, yeah. So I want to bring that because people are disconnected.
Yeah.
People are disconnected from hearing their own inner wisdom, from being connected to another source, to source creation, to the quantum, however they want to identify that, but they're disconnected from those things. And everyone's out there trying to hear my own voice or find myself. And dreams are an absolute beautiful vehicle that you own, and that is within you and that you can tap into for wisdom and guidance and creativity and problem solving. And wow. So we
How
know
funny is it that people keep going outside themselves to find themselves? I'm like, you guys, yeah, it's here. There's nothing out there. It's like, come back in, come back in. What do you say about people who say they don't dream, which I know isn't true, but,
well,
or I
you
don't
and
think
I
it's true.
actually met at Dream Camp,
We
and
did?
Dream Camp isn't just about dreams. It's actually about, living the dream and creating our dreams and all of those things. But we met at Dream Camp. And someone there, when I'd given my first workshop there, it was 2023, and someone that you would know, he came up to me and he goes, "You just blew my mind." And I was like, "Okay, what?" And he goes, "I always thought that I never dreamed." He goes, "But when you said we all dream, you just don't remember them." Like, it was like, "You mean I dream too?" And it was like, absolutely. And this is where, I say that I am here to help people reclaim their rest and their REM,
Right.
REM, the rapid eye movement, which is the stage of sleep that our eyeballs start doing this right underneath our lids. And that is also called dream sleep. It's where we have a lot of active dreaming. And there's about 4 to 5 dreams that actually can emerge from that. And so that stage it's not just about dreams. It's actually the area that is designed for emotional regulation, mental cognition, creativity, and memory consolidation. And so it's happening for us even if we don't dream recall. So that's the beautiful part, is it's
Yeah.
always working for you. Now it's just, how can you tap into that in that dream state? And it's a practice and everyone can do it.
It's so funny. I, at one point, tried to write down my dreams because I would dream a lot. I've always dreamed a lot. My ex-husband actually said to me, because I would get up in the morning and go, guess what I dreamed? And one day he said to me, maybe you shouldn't tell anybody these things. And I thought, I was like, what? Seriously? I think they're pretty interesting. But there were so many details and so much information.
Were
I'm
they
like, if I,
weird? Were they like, why would he? Okay.
because he thought I was weird.
Yeah.
Like the dream camp people would have went, yeah, that's totally cool. He's not a dream camp person.
Right.
He's an ex-husband.
Yeah.
But but I find that my dreams are so information laden and detailed. I'm like, I can't write all this down or else I won't get any more sleep. So I stopped writing them down and I just said, okay, I'll just try to remember this tomorrow. So, and
And
it's wild.
we all do it. I'm still guilty of it sometimes. Um, and I actually just did a, Instagram reel on that, which is getting up and you have all this detail. It was so rich with so much detail. And you're like, how the heck am I going to write all of this down?
Yeah.
And so the key is to write down what is most, I think, salient,
Mm.
what is, and what is amplified. Carl Jung talks about amplification a lot. And so it's the write those down at least. when you want to come back to it, and if you want to spend time with those characters or those symbols, you can start to fill in the gap when you can kind of do that at a later time. But remember the things that are the most important if it's just so detailed, because you can always come back to them. And in Dreamwork, which is a practice, taking clients through that, we actually sometimes isolate those things, and then you start to fill it in using the technique of active imagination, because it all comes from imagination. And we actually kind of walk back into the dream, or we ask the dream where it would like us to enter, and it becomes this co-creative moment where you're engaging that default mode network in the brain to support you in this, because dreams come from imagination, right? They all kind of come from the same place. And so when we ask and we invite and we approach with curiosity, it's interesting what can extrapolate out of it. I was recently, I gave a workshop to a group of influencers in New York City. And one of them said, I had this amazing dream and I woke up and then I forgot it all. As I'm in the workshop, talking about dreams, she's like, it was as if I suddenly remembered everything. And it's funny how at a later point, you may be, walking through your day and something suddenly triggers for you. And you're like, and it almost feels like deja vu.
Right.
So you can do those things. It doesn't have to be a giant novel. And even if you don't want to do that, because it can be a little bit labor intensive, there are ones that feel where the dream feels so mystical or so epic that it feels like it's got this divine kind of, feeling to it. And those ones, don't let those ones pass you by. Don't let those ones pass you by, because
I still have dreams I remember from when I was a teenager. They were a little intense, right? So it's like when they're intense, they stay with you. But yeah, dreams are fascinating. So do you, so I don't know if you know this, but I read the Akashic records. And I was asking my record keepers just like a few weeks ago, because I had this dream where at first I thought it was snakes. And then I realized I had actually turned into a dragon. So I asked them, why did I turn into a dragon? And their answer was, your nighttime meanderings are none of our concern.
Wow.
I was like, okay, they're not going to tell me. But weird things can happen. And lucid dreams, like I think people think it's some kind of magic trick to lucid dream. And I know I've read books about things to do to help you practice dropping into lucid dreaming, but have you found that you just naturally did it, or it was something that you worked on? And if you can tell them what lucid dreaming is.
Kids, teenagers have lots of more active that actually, when we're younger, there's actually a higher predisposition to out-of-body experiences. And there is a lot more levels of lucidity. And I think because there's so much play in the world, when you're younger, you're activated or stimulated much more. But all of those things kind of are on an arc of lucidity, and they kind of hang out in the same space. There are levels of lucidity, and a part of lucid dreaming one part of it is dream control. And that's the thing that everyone is it's really popular these days. There's a lot of research that's come out. It's big. And lucid dreaming is interesting. It feels really different than some of my typical lucid dreams, because the minute that when you come out of a dream episode, you wake up and you remember it. Well, you were lucid. You woke up inside of the dream. You know that you're dreaming and knowing that you're dreaming. That's the definition of lucid dreaming. Now it's levels of lucidity. Dream control is its own little thing. And it is a powerful thing. And it feels so different, that it really is something that kind of steps apart. It feels like you're in a simulation. And I use the term, it's kind of like you feel like you're behind the eyes, because you are actually inside of the body navigating inside of the dream while you're fully conscious. And sometimes I've had this, holy shit, am I lucid dreaming? And one in particular where it was the night before Good Friday, the last Good Friday, and I'd heard the voice of my father, who was transitioned over 10 years ago, and I went, Dad? And it's almost as though my body just jumped, my sort of astral self projected out of my body. And that's actually a technique that we use to launch into levitation or a hovering kind of thing in lucid dreaming. But I was like, Dad. And the next thing you know, I went through my door and I was like, oh my God. Like at that point, I'm doing a reality check inside of the dream. And I was like, holy shit, I'm lucid dreaming. I'm mentally saying this. And then I'm standing at the top of the stairs and then I float down. And oftentimes a lucid dreaming episode, they're not super long. You can kick yourself out of them because they generally happen in that in-between state where you're about to wake up, or if you're just about falling asleep. So it's either in the hypnagogic state or when you're about to wake up, the hypnopompic state. So it's an in-between state. So it's a very fertile place to be able to do that. But it is a very cool phenomenon. I also call, because it is so popular, people want to control, right? They want the dream control. It's fun. It's all of those things. Yes, I get it. But I also talk about being a lucid observer.
Oh, right? Cool.
Because gosh, I got to control things in my waking life. This is the one time where, I could be free. I want to know what's going on in my subconscious. Let me just observe and follow and see what this is taking me through. And so I think really having an intention in your dream practice, sometimes you can have fun. You can, plan it. There are meditations that can help you do that. There are herbs and things like that can do that are pretty cool. I experiment a lot with essential oils and different, different combinations. So I do have some of that in my toolkit. But I really appreciate the dream space and the subconscious as a place for growth. And as a place for renewal, as a place to understand those deeper drivers, our shadows. And so that I can, in my waking life, just be my best me.
Right. It's funny, the times that I have lucid dreamed, and I wasn't trying to have a practice of it. It just kind of happened accidentally. Were times, because I always joke with my friends, it's pretty easy for me to suspend reality and believe in anything that I see going on. But in the dream, I remember going, this is stupid. And that's when I realized, oh, I'm dreaming, because I thought what was going on was so stupid. I'm like, this can't be real. But what the book that I was reading, I had been reading about it, said, well, once you realize you're lucid dreaming, why don't you do something fun? So I decided to try flying through walls. So I did it for a few walls, and then it was like, you're like you said, you fall back. It's like I was getting stuck. I'm like, why am I getting stuck? And then I was dreaming again. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing to do. One day I said to my friends in my dream, did you know I'm dreaming? And they just smiled. Like they're like, we don't care. But do you find that because we're talking about like the city and the electronics and all of the stuff and the importance of sleep, does that, I assume to some degree, that affects how much REM you get?
Oh, this is why I'm about reclaiming rest and REM. So because the REM stage of the sleep cycle is crucial. It is absolutely crucial. And I don't think that people are paying attention the way that, or honoring the sacredness of sleep and rest. We've grown up, I'm a Generation Xer, and we've grown up with, you'll sleep when you're dead.
Right.
Like, who came up with that? That's so stupid.
Some rock star.
Yeah, right. And then people took it on because we were in the grind culture and the hustle culture. And right now I'm reading an incredible book called Rest is Resistance, but it's, it's a radical movement to say, you know what, I'm going to take this time for me. We have been conditioned, and I am a Capricorn. I'm a taskmaster by nature. To be, to keep on going and like to cram as much as we can. And and this is why this is so important to me, because I am guilty of that. And I know what that is like, but I'm also Caribbean. We have prioritized sleep. My family does. And in this, I'm also have an issue with daylight savings time.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah. Yeah. We can talk so much about this, but we have been trained to believe that we must be in a window of compressed sleeping. In fact, way back, we were biphasic sleepers.
What's
and so we sleep for a period of time. People would wake, they would be in prayer or meditation or make love, whatever it might be, and then go back to bed. But being, working, taking time for rest in countries where it's very hot, having your siestas, having your afternoon naps, things like that were common. And, so therefore people, my parents, get up early, go to work, but they come home and then they would nap and sleep, and then they would get up. And so they actually broke it up into phases, whereas we think that we have to have solid, continuous sleep for 8 hours straight, when that generally isn't how it was done in the past with our ancestors. But even if it is, we've got all of the stimuli around us. We've got devices, we've got this going on, and we're struggling to shut it off, myself included. All of these waves kind of going around. We don't have complete darkness, but also something that is really alive for me, which is, and I notice it with friends, which is falling asleep with the television on. What?
Oh, no.
Falling asleep with lights on. TVs in rooms. I don't have curtains on my window. So I wake up with natural light because I am a deep sleeper. I've always have been. But I also make sure that I honor my rest at night. So I'm not sleeping with a television or a light on ever, a night light and things like that. So, these are all things, that we can kind of edit in our lives to say, hey, what are we doing to really create the right environment for honoring my sleep? That even if I'm not, writing it down and dream interpreting, hey, REM sleep, rapid eye movement, is for my mental clarity. We've all been
Right.
there where we haven't had a good night's sleep. You wake up, it's pure fog, you're grumpy. Then that cascades into your day. You can't think straight because now you're dysregulated. And we don't realize that breakdown and how that impacts us being really great at what we do. Then we don't get our to-do list done. And then we're mad at ourselves because we're feeling guilty. And then we've still got to cook dinner, do the laundry, all of these kinds of things. And we've got no energy.
And you might stay up late again to get it done because you were too tired to get it done, which just makes you more tired, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So crazy.
Yes. And so if we could think about how much better the world would be if people were well rested. Just, oh my God, like nice, deep honoring of rest. We spend a third of our lives sleeping. And so if you're going to, and that's a significant amount of time. And in that time, some amazing things are happening, And so if somebody is struggling with memory, or if they're struggling, if they're having trouble with emotionally regulating, or if they're going, hey, I want to be more, I'm in a place of creativity. I want to invite more creativity into my vessel. If you're not rested, you're not able to receive.
Right. Did you read Arianna Huffington's book on sleep?
That was a long time ago.
That one blew my mind.
And I was really happy when she wrote that. And that was, I think that's over 20 years old. No?
Probably. It's
Um,
older.
and yeah, I'm wondering if it was before she joined Facebook, but it's a long time ago. And I thought she was absolutely a pioneer in that, because she was the first person who really, talked about the importance of rest and sleep and all of those things and bringing that to light. Whereas now it's even more so, because we are in a stage of the world where regenerative health and medicines, if we're not taking care of our REM sleep and honoring our REM sleep, you are not regenerating. So if we're going to talk about regenerative health, you have to include REM sleep, and rest into that category. And not just, like if one of my mentors, recently said, listen, if you're running out of ideas, if you, go take a nap.
That's what I
Allow
did when I
your
was
mind.
studying. Like if I stopped learning and I realized it was stopped going in, I'm like, I got to go lay down.
Yeah. Just
You'd
take it.
wake up and boom, oh my God, I'm brilliant again.
Yes. Yes. Right. It works like a charm. Like people, and because my background is sales and marketing, and most recently just focused on marketing and doing multiple things at the time, because I'm content creating, I'm writing, I'm copywriting, I'm editing, I'm doing all these, things all the time. So it was taking a lot. Listen, I've leaned into my dream state, not just nocturnal dreams, but that stage of daydreaming where you're in reverie, and allowing the space in my brain, and allowing
Yeah.
that space. So spaciousness is something I am considered a maladaptive daydreamer. So a maladaptive daydreamer is somebody who daydreams excessively. And so,
I don't
you
think
know,
that's a problem, but
it kind of is, because you can, like, something can trigger and then we kind of go, whoa. And then next thing you know, I'm lying back and I'm in this whole other realm. And it's something, in order to get things done, I would have to hyper focus. So I thought that I was ADHD, and I was like, but I'm not an ADHD, like I'm not that person. And then we figured it out. But I love that place, because guess what? I got visions coming through like crazy. And so all I've got to do is invite that spaciousness and then capture the idea as it comes in.
right.
So guess what? I don't have to strive, the overachiever, overdoing person that is
Hustle,
naturally
hustle. I hate
hustle,
hustle.
hustle, and searching for the answer. I can invite the answer. I can receive the answer. And that to me is tapping into your magic. And it has made my life so much easier.
Right? That's
Yeah.
amazing. I promised I would tell you. So Star Trek: The Next Generation, there's an episode where they're stuck somewhere in like this cloud or something, and they're all starting to go a little insane and none of them can sleep. And it's because there's these entities who are calling for them to help them, but they call through the subconscious kind of vibe.
Oh, I gotta see
And
that.
it's stopping all of their REM sleep. So they all start to like lose, and they can't operate. Like they just can't operate without sleep. I thought it's like Star Trek. Wow. Talking about
But
the REM
somebody,
sleep.
listen, someone tapped into that, because, people that have disrupted REM sleep, the body will try to recover. So there's something called REM rebound. And it's actually a really cool thing. Let's say when people have jet lag or things, and it's happened to me where, I wasn't sleeping well or whatever it might be. And then there's another night where you have this REM rebound where your body's just trying to catch up. So we'll do something to try to, create harmony and harmonize you. However, if people are constantly compromising, or if, there are things that can compromise, excessive alcohol and things like that,
Mm,
that can compromise their REM sleep, or they're sleeping with lights on or having lots of disruption, it will catch up in a way. And especially that mental cognition place, but also that's where people have night terrors. That's where sleep paralysis can enter into the equation for people.
Wow.
So that's where where your people are feeling like these kind of weird things, because it really is that important, actually. So R.E.M.
Your body's going to figure out a way to get you there,
It
friends.
will.
So you
Yeah.
might as well cooperate.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Oh my
Exactly.
gosh. I feel like we could talk about dreams forever. So you're right. You could talk forever about dreams, um, and it would all be fascinating and interesting. Where do people find you?
So they can find me. I'm on social media on Instagram as Natasha Dreamseer. That's why I put my name there. My name is Natasha Bolvin, but I go by the Dreamseer. You can call me the Dreamseer. And so they can also do natashadreamseer.com, and they can apply to work with me one-to-one. I will be doing some group offerings and some at-home study. And I have a lot of content, so a lot of interesting information. So I'm always happy to answer and talk about dreams. It's just so I love it. It's
Right.
because it's so big and so rich and so full, and so yeah.
Right.
So they can find me that way.
Cool. And don't worry, everybody, it's in the show notes as always. And before we head off to dreamland, my friend Natasha, do you have a final words? Do you have some final words of wisdom for us?
So what I'm called to say is rest is your birthright. Rest is restoration. Rest is regenerative. And you deserve it. It is the ultimate act of self-care and nourishment. If you are seeking a higher connection to yourself, to God, to the world around you, tap into your dreams. There is no better route to get to know yourself than what's within yourself.
That is awesome. I love it. And I love sleeping and dreaming. It's one of my favorite things to do. So
Same.
that's why I never went to morning things at dream camp. I always just showed up at breakfast.
I'm the same way.
Right?
I get it.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see you again at the next event.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
Friends in Dream Camp land. Friends in podcast land. Well, welcome to Dream Camp. You can come too. Share this with people that you know don't have good sleep hygiene, that could use some more rest, that have crazy dreams, and you think that they maybe need to talk to someone. Send them over to Natasha, right? Subscribe, like, share, comment, all of the good things. Friends, have an amazing week. We will see you next time. Take care. Hi, my friend. Thanks so much for listening to this entire podcast. If you found it useful and you're like me and you like helping others, please feel free to share this. Give it a like, give it a comment. If you found something useful in it, there's a chance that someone else will find something useful as well. Also, if you have any questions at all, I can absolutely help, and I would love to help. You can email me at heather@prosperityflowcoaching.com. If you want more of this awesome content, you can follow me on Instagram, Heather Stewart Coaching. You can follow me on Facebook, Prosperity Flow Coaching. And I have a personal request. I want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. And if you could give me a review, hopefully a good one, if you could share, if you could send this out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope that you find your way to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend.